Hi, I'm Darlene Nichols, the social work librarian at the University of Michigan, and my specialty is finding information, managing it, incorporating it into research, and evaluating the resources, particularly related to the field of social work. In this presentation, we're going to see some mechanics of the best ways of retrieving information when you're doing evidence-based practice. Many of us find information on the internet every single day. We look for restaurant reviews, movie times, medical information. But when you're doing practice and you need good evidence, you want to be more systematic in your approach than our typical searches. Your searches really need to reflect your research need or question, the problem you're trying to resolve. You want to plan and design the approach, and as you proceed, you want to construct a search that will be fluid and flexible, reflecting the sources and what you're finding on your way. This will require some creativity, and we'll look at some techniques for how to do this. In identifying your information need, first clarify your question or problem. You can ask yourself what you want to find out. You can fill out this statement, for example. I want to find out the following so that I can understand or do or accomplish a certain thing. In the example on the screen, I want to find out about the transportation policies in my and similar communities related to people with disabilities. That is what. The why is in order to help my community improve transportation for this population. You can further narrow this and think about this statement. For example, what do I mean by similar communities? Am I thinking about communities that have the same square mileage, the same population size, the same economic situation or circumstances? Perhaps I will think about particular disabilities and not just disabilities in general. When I say policies, what am I looking for? Am I looking for what's currently on the books? Am I looking for what has been changed in the last 5 years? There are a lot of details that I can use to improve this statement, and that is part of the fluidity and evolution of your search as you proceed. In your why statement, the word improve is rather vague, so you might want to think about what you mean by improving and how that would look, or maybe what you want are best practices. Lots of options for actually improving this statement, but it is a start. So as you plan your search, you think about what kind of evidence you need. Do you need data? Do you need surveys? Do you want to look at what's going on in the local news? What are the sources for that particular information? If we're looking for city policies, obviously we want to talk to the city government, but maybe interest groups in the area or research organizations also would have information that would benefit your outcome. After you've done this part of the steps, you can think about what words, what terminology actually capture your ideas. In constructing a search, librarians like to talk about Boolean logic. It's a structured way of combining key terms in search engines like Google and databases such as PubMed. This will give you a lot more precision in your search, and you're probably already using this, maybe without even realizing it. Many databases assume "and" when you type in your terms. So in the example on the right, young adults, it's actually going to assume young and adults, unless you put that in quotes. Most databases don't require that you capitalize these Boolean operators, but some do, so check on that before you evaluate your results. In this example, adolescents or young adults, I'm looking for information that will capture the population between the ages of 13 and, say, 30. So I want results that have either, not necessarily both. So this will expand and broaden the results of my search. Using the word "and" between your terms narrows the search down because you're telling the database that you really want both terms to be present. So in the examples on the right, I have a subset that includes both poverty and children. And in the example next to that, I have a subset that includes disability and transportation and policy. I'm looking for the overlap. I want the results that have all of those terms present. The Boolean operator not excludes a term. For example, on the left, you'll see an example that says adults, not aged. If I'm looking for results that do not include the adult population, that is the elderly, then I might choose to use not. But you want to be careful with using not because you might exclude things that would be relevant. For example, a discussion of changes over the lifespan, including younger adults as well as elderly. As you proceed through your search, think about the different terms that capture the same or related ideas. For example, elderly, aged, and old can capture the idea of the population that is perhaps over 70. As you look at your results, look at what terms they're using. Think about the language that is reflected in the resource that you're working with. Perhaps you can come up with new search strings that would give you more precise results again. And also consider broader terms, especially if you're not finding enough related to your target topic. For example, if you're looking for something on Asperger's syndrome and not finding enough, you could elevate that to a higher level in the hierarchy of subjects to autism or autism spectrum disorders, which captures Asperger's as well. Finally, some quick additional tips. Quotation marks tell the database or even the search engine like Google that you want the search to be a phrase, these words next to each other in this order. Otherwise, typically, they will assume and, so you would get cognitive and behavior and therapy. If you use parentheses around words that are strung together with or, that tells it this is a single idea, essentially. So aged or elderly or old, in parentheses, any of those terms will be good for me, and care. So I will get one or several from the first set within parentheses, and the word care. You can check help pages in the database to see if truncation is allowed. So that means you can put an asterisk or other symbol behind a word and retrieve variants of that word. Some databases now have algorithms that will do that for you, so you want to double check if that's something that you'll have to do to maximize your output. Look for language that the database itself uses. Sometimes these are labeled as subjects or descriptors, and you can add those terms to modify your search string. On the left side of many screens, you'll also see filters once you have your results, and you can narrow down your search by date range, language, and other features that, again, will allow you to focus on exactly what it is that you need. Finally, it's important to record what you're doing. You want to note what was a good search, what gave you good outcomes, so you don't do this over and over again each time you return to the search. And record where you got your information so that you can find it later or you can cite it in whatever documentation that you use. Searching is something of an art, and it takes practice. The most important thing that you might want to recall is that librarians and professionals, faculty, and those in the field are happy to support your work. So be sure to ask when you need assistance.